chances are, if you're watching this video, you're already fairly conscious about how you can try to reduce the impact that you make on the environment. That might be by reducing your waste, or perhaps giving up single-use plastics, or recycling everything you can, buying organic, whether that's food or clothes, or buying second-hand, or not buying anything at all. But then there's cycling, which can often feel like a consumerist-fueled world of shiny metal and carbon fibre that centuries after it was once a bike will still be littering the planet. So how do you take your desire to be more environmentally aware into cycling? Well, there are ways of doing it. We've done some research, and we've also partnered up with some brands that are going in the right direction. Some of whom we already work with, others like Vast Bikes and Isadore Clothing that we don't, but who are trying to do things in a more sustainable way. And by using them as examples, we can help to shed a little bit more light on how you can make more educated decisions. First up, by riding a bike for your hobby or mode of transport, or perhaps both, you're already making a really positive choice. So don't beat yourself up about wanting to travel to France and ride up Mont Ventoux or buy a new pair of carbon wheels. Because whilst the choices we make as individuals are really important, the fate of the planet doesn't hinge on every one. And feeling like it does, eco-anxiety is a real thing. So we don't want you to feel worse by what you're hearing about in this video. Cycling is a positive thing, do more of it and enjoy it. Perhaps the best piece of advice first though is simply to look after what you've got. Ride your bike, enjoy riding your bike, don't feel guilty about riding your bike in the rain or the mud, but just when you get home, give it a little bit of TLC. So that means cleaning the bike thoroughly, drying it somewhere before storing it in a cold, wet garage or garden shed, and then, before it's absolutely necessary, giving things like your bearings a bit of love. Now, there's no excuse for not doing so. Alex shows you how on a regular basis over on the GCN Tech channel. It's super easy and it makes a big difference to the lifespan of your bike. A clean chain, for example, will make your cassette and your chain rings last longer. Keeping the bike or storing it dry will make your derailleurs and your cables last longer. And giving your bearings a bit of love will also make your headset and your bottom bracket and your hubs and your free hub last longer as well. It will make a significant difference. Now, what you use to look after your bike is perhaps our first consumer choice. We work with Muck-Off here at GCN, and I've been genuinely really pleased at their drive to reduce their use of plastic. Apparently they've saved 136 tons of plastic from just the last couple of years alone, going from selling something like this, which is their Muck-Off degreaser, into also then selling refills. Now this, which is a powder packaged in paper, uses 92% less packaging, apparently. You still have to make a choice about what you use, but the options are there. And finally, when it comes to maintenance, don't forget as well about mending things, like mending punctured inner tubes or tubeless tyres with holes in. It's still a genuinely satisfying task, particularly when you might get a chance to tenner for an inner tube in a bike shop. I reckon I can probably fix about 6 an hour. That's £60 an hour. Now, the antidote to consumerism is, of course, simply not buying stuff. And I think we could all do with a healthy dose of being more content with what we're already riding. And I appreciate I am more guilty than most at getting breathless and excited at the latest and greatest tech. But if you ride a bike, stuff will wear out. It's inevitable. You'll have to buy new brake pads, chain, cassette, whatever. So you will buy stuff. And so buying second-hand is a really good idea. Although the second-hand bike market is absolutely ballistic at the moment. And so it's not as if you don't buy something second-hand, it will go to landfill instead. As you can see, everything can find a new home, can be reused and recycled. So whilst buying second-hand might not seem like the whole solution, it is definitely part of the answer. Okay, we're getting slightly off topic there, but saving money is always a bonus. Now, the most significant purchase I imagine we're all going to make are the bikes themselves. And so are there more or less eco-friendly options out there? Interestingly, Trek conducted, as far as I can tell, a bit of a landmark audit in cycling anyway, of their business to analyse their emissions output. And it shows that the single biggest source was transportation, shipping bikes across the world, and particularly air freight. Now that's something that affects, of course, most brands, unless you're buying something that's been manufactured just down the road. But while it's utterly lovely to get a handmade frame from a local builder, it's likely to be out of reach for most of us, and the materials still have to come from somewhere. So finding a manufacturer that takes a holistic approach to sustainability, i.e. by doing things like reducing air freight, is going to be key. Now, is frame material also significant? Potentially, yes. I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Vast, who are pretty much unique in cycling at the moment by using a magnesium alloy to make their frames from. Now, as far as Wanda materials go, magnesium certainly seems to be one of the most eco-friendly out there. In its natural form, it's abundant in the Earth's crust. It's also completely recyclable, and also at the end of its lifespan, it will also completely decompose. To make a frame is less energy intensive than doing so with aluminium, and it also produces less CO2 than a carbon frame. And make no mistake as well, this is no bamboo bike knitted together with wool and pubes. It's a performance material. It's really light and it's really stiff. Carbon fibre parts, typically not that great for the environment. I mean, it still can't really be recycled, and to do so requires loads of additional energy. And actually the product that you get at the end is not very good quality. So generally, when you're done with something made out of carbon fibre, it's going to go to landfill. And actually it's not just the part that goes to landfill, there's quite a lot of wastage during production as well, so offcuts of carbon and the like. On the flip side of that though, carbon can last a really long time, and it's repairable as well. Not everything can be fixed, but a lot of it can, and repaired carbon is a thing of wonder. We've got a video over on the tech channel actually, if you want a little bit more detail on it. So ultimately, whilst carbon fibre is less environmentally friendly, with the potential lifespan of it, if you look after it, it's not that bad a choice. The other brand that we've been talking to specifically about sustainability is Isadore clothing. Now, the wider clothing industry seems to be a little bit more switched on to the issue of sustainability. It's been in the media for longer, I guess. And whilst that hasn't filtered through into cycling clothing wholesale, there are, as you can see, options. And most cycling clothing is made from plastic, which is a weird thought, I know, but there it is. Now, Isadore are using a lot of recycled plastic in a lot of their clothing, and specifically their alternative range, which I'm wearing now, is made from 100% recycled materials. Apparently 30 half-litre plastic bottles went into this jersey. Now, what was also cool is when the kit arrived, it was packaged in compostable, degradable bags, which might not seem like much to an individual if you get a couple of things a year perhaps, but when a brand makes a wholesale shift like that, it's saving potentially tens of thousands of kilos of plastic every year. And finally, just like your hardware, where you get your clothes and how they're made is also really important too. So that's like supply chains. How locally are they made? Has the person who made them been paid a living wage? If a company is serious about that kind of stuff, you can be fairly confident that they will talk about it on their website. And then lastly, again, just like with hardware, reusing and recycling is really important too. So if you've had enough of something, pass it on to someone else. And if you crash and put a hole in it, don't stick it in the bin. Often it can be fixed. You might not be a dab hand with a needle and thread, but you can safely bet that your local tailor is. And actually a lot of cycling brands also have a crash repair service, so they will stitch it up for you, send it back to you, good as new. As I said in the introduction, by choosing cycling, you've already made a pretty great choice. But without doubt, the best thing that you can possibly do is to take your passion for cycling and use it to replace driving your car, for some of the time at least. I'm sure many of you already do use your bike for transport, but a lot of people I know make a clear distinction between cycling for fun and cycling for transport. But it doesn't have to be like that. Trek said, as part of their sustainability report, that if you cycle for 430 miles instead of driving, it will offset the carbon footprint of producing your bike, which is pretty cool. Admittedly, not many people commute to work on aero road bikes, but when you do, you certainly get there nice and quickly. Don't feel guilty about riding your bike. Just make educated choices when you need to. Hopefully you can see there are options out there. Remember, the more we talk about it and the more we support brands who are doing things right, the faster larger brands will have to change, thus making the biggest difference. But remember, one of the best things you can possibly do is to ride your bike. So do more of it and enjoy it. Now, I would love it if you would get involved in the comments section down below. It'd be super cool if you could throw in your suggestions and ideas as to what we can all do to help as cyclists, and then it'd be a great place to share resources, and perhaps we can do a follow-up video as well. Please, if you enjoyed this as well, give it a big thumbs up, and also make sure you share it around as well, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that perhaps might benefit from watching it, but wouldn't necessarily automatically click on it.